Disclaimer: this is audio horror fiction. If darkness or the creatures it holds scares you, leave now. Still listening? Good. Then let's begin. A couple of days ago, my father walked inside of my house wearing a crown. I started laughing as soon as I saw him, but he looked at me with pure hatred in his eyes. He pointed his index finger at me and asked, "Did I give you the permission to laugh?" I got up and gave him a fake bow, but as I bent down, he grabbed me by the hair and slammed me onto the ground. When I tried to get back up, I felt something sharp cut the back of my neck. In between his uneven breaths, my father bent down and said, "You can get up now, but the next time you make a mockery out of me, I will end your life." I tried asking him if he was feeling okay, but before I could even finish my sentence, he turned around and walked towards his room. I walked upstairs to my bedroom and saw my wife laying on her bed reading a book. She looked up from her book to give me a little smile, but a look of concern immediately took over. In a shaky voice, she asked, "Drew, are you okay, honey? Why are you so pale?" I told her I was fine. She was pregnant. I didn't want her to get worked up with what could just be a senile moment from my father. As the days went by, my father progressively became more and more obsessed over his new made-up status. It got to the point where I would have to stand up whenever I saw him. Thankfully, I was the only one he treated like a servant. He acted completely normal around my wife and even acted excited when my future son would come up in their conversations. I figured I could just deal with my father until May 12th, the day my son was expected to be born. The next couple of days I did a good job of avoiding him, and things slowly started to go back to normal. My father even started to calm down, and I thought he would snap out of the phase. I lost all hope yesterday. We had just purchased one of those assemble-it-yourself cribs for my son. I was setting it up in his future room when my father came in and sat next to me. Putting on the biggest smile I could muster up at that time, I told him that I had everything under control. He didn't answer back. Instead, he just stared at the part of the crib that was already built. With each piece I attached to the crib, I could hear his breathing getting slower and deeper. By the time I was halfway done, he got up and started walking out the door. With a sigh of relief, I started working on the crib in peace. About 10 seconds later, I heard the sound of fast footsteps coming from behind me. I looked behind me, but there was no one around. My father ran in a couple of seconds later, grabbed me by my shirt and asked, "Where the fuck is Jerry? I know you know where he is." I shoved him back and told him I didn't know anyone named Jerry. He walked back up to me and said, "Listen here, peasant. You're lucky you're even alive right now. Just tell me where Jerry is and this all can stop." I pushed past him and walked into the kitchen. My wife was eating a sandwich when I sat next to her. She tried asking me what was wrong, but I told her to finish her sandwich first. Once she was done eating, I talked to her about what my father was doing. After I was done telling her, she told me that we should look into a couple of retirement homes once the pregnancy was over. The conversation was put on hold when my dad walked into the kitchen. He sat at the table and snapped his fingers at me. I asked him what he wanted, but he just pointed at the loaf of bread and then at the fridge. I made him a sandwich and placed it in front of him. After a couple of bites, he spat out the last bite he took and threw the rest of the sandwich on the floor. Annoyed and a bit pissed off, I walked over to the counter to grab a couple of paper towels. When I walked back to my father, I threw the paper towels at him and told him to pick it up. With a slight grin on his face, he retorted back, "Clean what up? You feeling okay, son?" I started to point at the floor, but the sandwich was gone. There were a couple of streaks of mustard and mayo on the ground, but other than that, it had vanished. I looked over at my wife, but she just shrugged her shoulders. Her face had gone completely pale, but I could see that she was just trying to rationalize what had just happened. Nobody ate dinner that night. My father just forgot about having to eat, and my wife and I just did not have any sort of appetite anymore. My wife fell asleep at 8 p.m. I was in the middle of a movie when I started to hear a noise coming from outside of our bedroom. When I opened the door, I could hear what the noise was. It was the sound of a baby laughing. I slowly walked down the stairs and pressed my ear against my father's bedroom door. The laughing was coming from inside of his room. I started to open the door but stopped when I heard my father talking. With a voice filled with happiness, he said, "I knew you weren't gone, Jerry. I knew you would come back to your papa. Your little brother is quite the disappointment, isn't he? He's just a peasant, a nobody. But you are everything I ever wanted." I swung the door open and saw my father sitting on the middle of his bed while tickling the air. He didn't even notice me stare at him for a couple of minutes. I closed his door and walked back up to my room. I'm sitting on my bed with a laptop now. I know at least some of you guys will know what I should do. I really need help right now, guys. I don't think I can keep living with him for the next couple of months. Even as I tell this to you, I can hear the sound of light footsteps running around our house. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and subscribe to help feed the dark machine. Be sure to share with other fans of horror. And if you have a story that you would like for me to read, check the description below for details.